Hello, everybody, and welcome to another round of the 2020 GP4 Offline Championship. We are here for the Dutch Grand Prix in Zam. Oh, wait, hang on a minute. No, we're not. We're in Germany. We're in the German Grand Prix in Hockenheim. Yes, for anybody who didn't see the news yesterday, we have moved to Hockenheim instead of Zandvoort due to issues with the circuit for the top class, which is why you may have seen yesterday in GP2 they were also at Hockenheim yesterday, and they've had to have a different GP name because they've already used the German Grand Prix. But we are here at Hockenheim instead, and I am JW97 as per usual, and I was meant to be joined by Florian Volker, aka Dioka, but he's decided to rest for a little bit before the GP2 race later on tonight because he does have a bit of a sore throat and a bad cold. So instead, I'm joined by the league host himself, Yuri Marta. How are you doing?
Hello, it's the God here. I'm doing quite well. A bit stressing day of work, but we are moving on.
Indeed, and as Laura said, Zandvoort looking a bit weird. Yeah, I'd argue a bit better as well, to be honest, Laura. But anyway,
So
as
I think I could explain a little bit. So we had the test race on Saturday, of course, like usually. Uh, yeah, we didn't get even into the halfway point of the race before things got out of hand with the incidents. And as with the actual incident spot being in a corner where the cars just fly into the atmosphere, it wouldn't work. It couldn't give us the quality of racing that I want from the GP4 OC. And of course, I tried to fix it, and I'm going to reveal I tried to use the no refueling track settings, and while it did make things a little bit better, it still wasn't good enough. But I'm going to keep the no refueling settings in mind. But yeah,
yeah,
Sandworld is blacklisted for now. Let's wait if they can make a better one. Apparently the new one isn't good either, according to Flow.
yeah, the DAT file for the 2020 Zandvoort apparently has got a similar problem with the corner. So anyway, we're here at Hockenheim instead, and we might as well take a look at the weather, shall we? It should come up on your screen very, 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 very soon, which it has done now. As you can see, we have got light rain to start off with, but it could dry off. But as you can see on the left-hand side, it will be dry. So whether it will wet up and then dry up later on, we'll have to wait and see in this half an hour session. But I think without further ado, we can get into this. Now, there are a couple of things to point out. First of all, I don't think there is a test driver, is there, Yuri,
Nope.
from what I
All
gather?
main drivers driving today.
All main drivers. Okay, so all the main drivers are in the car today, so no changes there. Of course, Williams do have a special livery for today because, of course, this past weekend, of course, we sadly lost Sir Frank Williams, of course, the founder of the Williams Grand Prix engineering team, and they have decided to run a special livery, which is this one right here. It is basically a nod to the Canon Williams livery, as you can see. So it was, of course, designed by Evan Byrne, who got it very quickly turned around, it must be said. So you'll see both Felix Sontag and Jamie Griffiths running a very special Canon Williams livery, and on top of that as well, Sir Frank Williams, the rest in peace Sir Frank Williams emblem on the halo as well. So a nice tribute there. So let us know what you guys think of the special livery that Williams is running. But we are here in Hockenheim, and the first driver on the track is, of course, Roland Motrin. Now, I think for a lot of people, a lot of heartbreak last time out at the Chinese Grand Prix, it must be said. Looked on course to try and get his first ever victory. Not the first one in a long time, George. His first ever win. In the OC, but unfortunately, bad luck hampered him again as Dudu Kirby, thanks to a mechanical failure, sadly bounced back across the track and took out Roland Motrin. As you just saw there at the hairpin, there are some dots on track, so there are some dots, but whether it will wetten up, we'll have to wait and see, or whether it could dry up, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, a lot of heartbreak for Roland at the last race, and they'll be looking to put that race behind him, but you even said yourself it was heartbreaking, Yuri.
Yeah, yeah, I think Roland really did. After all these years, he deserves a win at some point. Come on. Even though, like, the Chinese GP was, well, definitely the best Chinese GP we have had in the OC. But I think we could also put it in the probably a list of at least the top 15 races in the OC history. And
I did.
yeah, Felix, I did not check, but the helmet you gave might have been in reverse. I'm going to fix it for Guali.
Okay, so a little bit of an issue there with Felix with a special helmet he's got. But I guess for Felix Sontag and David Cupart, they're kind of relieved it's not a Zandvoort because for a while they didn't think they were going to have a home Grand Prix. Well, they've got one now, which has definitely kept them very happy indeed.
Yeah, thankfully both of the German tracks, so Hockenheim and Nürburgring especially with the weight pads and the revised settings are both really good tracks for in terms of the racing. I think Hockenheim does have a little bit of a thing with this corner here, as we have seen with Dudu Kirby.
It looked like he had a bit of a wide moment there as George Roke tried to pass him into turn one.
Last season there was one incident based on the first two corners, so not really bad.
Well, let's go back to China for a moment because, of course, whilst it was Roland Motrin's loss, it was another driver's gain to get his first ever win. That courtesy of Jake Galloway, who surprisingly took his first ever win in what is only his third Grand Prix. And speaking of which, he actually goes to the top at the moment. But a very shocking win indeed. And I actually had to check this because I didn't know this. He is the first legit rookie to win a race in the top class, of course. And we don't count, of course, Bruno Junqueira and obviously 2006, of course, because that was the first season. But he is the first legit rookie to win a race and a very huge achievement in only his third Grand Prix.
Yeah, it was a really impressive performance, but also to help that stat, to be honest, in terms of the legit rookies, he does have the best machinery because usually, well, most of the rookies get into cars like the Williams or the Alfa Romeo or the Haas of this season, or as previously was the Lotus and the Marussia, and I don't think you can win even chaotic races with those things.
Definitely not. And as you can see, there is spray on the track, so it has wetted up. So we might not see some improvements for the moment. But as I've said, the track could improve a little bit later on. We'll have to wait and see. We ride on board with Franco Gamba, who was in contention for the victory last time out in China. But of course, the strategy just didn't pay off for him, and he ended up dropping from first all the way up to down to fourth. He was lucky he didn't lose a place to Kupok in the end there.
Yeah, his tires just melted away at the end. I don't think he could have done anything. I think the performance itself wasn't the most impressive from Gamba, but like it wasn't bad. That strategy and Pirelli have some work to do.
So, Indeed. Indeed. Meanwhile, Roke goes into 17th, of course, because of the changeable conditions. But as I said, it could get a little bit better a little bit later on. We'll have to wait and see, of course. Whether this weather will be about in qualifying is another question, of course. Obviously, that goes underway straight after this, once we reset the stream, of course. But, yeah, obviously, as well, in China, obviously, I did, after the race, I did ask a little bit of debate given how much of a crazy race it was, and I asked people which race is better, Korea 2010 or China 2020, because a lot of people believe that Korea 2010 was the best race in OC history, and I asked whether China surpasses that. Some people said it did, but mostly people still say that Korea was better. So a bit of an interesting thoughts of opinion there, but overall you'd have to say maybe comfortable top three for China 2020 as Lopez has a little bit of a moment and luckily didn't spin it there.
Yeah, well, of course practice uses a little bit higher mistake rate. The drivers are checking their limits, and good job for keeping the car on the line.
Indeed. But one other thing I do want to point out as well is we look at Franco Lopez as Griffiths has made a little bit of a mistake into turn one there this time by, and it's mainly because Joseph Willows was trying to pass him into the first corner. As in fact, it was because of a little bit of contact between the pair of them, so a little bit of a cheeky tap there from Joseph there. I don't think Jamie's going to be particularly impressed with that one. But luckily he kept the car pointing in the right direction. I guess taking bump and run to an extreme there. But as I was saying, Lopez, of course, in the last race, after having to start from 12th on the grid due to a disastrous qualifying in Shanghai, as he called it, damage limitation. Well, he actually went up to second in the end, actually finishing second in the race, making it 3 second-place finishes in a row, 3 out of 3 second places, and definitely a crucial one because he cut the gap on Carr in the championship and finished behind him. Now it's down to just 9 points between the two Mercedes drivers. We're on board with the man who won last time out in China, Jake Galloway, currently in second at the moment due to these changeable conditions. Yeah, obviously he's now up to third in the Drivers' Championship as a result, and Renault, surprisingly, up into second in the Constructors' Championship after what has been quite a shaky start to the season for Red Bull, you'd have to say. I mean, obviously, we expected them to challenge Mercedes, but so far they've kind of dropped off a little bit.
Well, yeah, Mercedes do have the clearly best car, but Red Bull, they do have also the clearly second best car on the grid, I think. Their drivers have been, well, to put it lightly, a little bit inconsistent. In Australia, they should have been third and fourth, but obviously, Gamba had the car failure, and Bahrain was horrible, to be honest. And China was and strategy error for Gamba, and Gal was not on pace on that race. I think they will bounce back, and of course they need to, because I think Red Bull will consider a lineup change if this doesn't work out.
Especially going into the fantasy era, that is, of course. Obviously, when we don't really know what the performances are going to look like. We just saw there, speaking of the Red Bull, that Franco Gamba is actually on the intermediate tyre. So he's the only one I've seen on the track so far that's on the intermediates. I'm not sure if anybody else is, but his teammate's not on the inters. He's currently still on the medium tyre. Now, I should clear up because, of course, because we were obviously supposed to go to Zandvoort, we were meant to use the medium tyres. Well, I can confirm to you that we are using the same compounds that were supposed to be used at Zandvoort. So the medium compound tyres and the tyre wear is going to be the same as what it was supposed to be at Zandvoort before, of course, we switched to Hockenheim. So just to clear that up, we are using the medium tyres for this week. For the second race in a row, I should point out, because, of course, in China we used the medium compound tyres. So we ride on board with Amar Khan. He's coming back into the pits this lap. Currently at the top of the timing sheets, we're 1 minute 12.206, and so far probably going to stay there for a while unless the track conditions improve towards the end, where it starts to get a little bit drier. So to wait and see on that as we look back at Miklos Gal, of course, currently fourth now in the Drivers' Championship after Jake Galloway's victory. And you have to, as Yuri pointed out there, disastrous race in China for Miklos Gal, of course, causing the a lap 1 incident with Joseph Willows and several others as well.
Yeah, do we bring back the meme or not? But yeah, Gal, after a good showing in Australia, and probably was the better Red Bull in Bahrain as well, China was a massive step back, and we saw that he can still be good. He was great last season, but now he needs the clean races with good pace. He has good memories from last season in this track, particularly. So
indeed, this is what he got. He obviously took the victory here last season after cracking Franco Lopez under a lot of pressure. Of course, Lopez will be hoping not to repeat that this season, given the mistake he made, which you have to say probably cost him a chance at trying to have a go at Gal towards the end of the race. But it, of course, handed Gal the comfortable victory here in Germany. Of course, to date, that is his last win. He hasn't had a victory since last season here in Germany, so it'll be ironic if he gets his next win would come here this week. But of course, we don't know how the Red Bull's going to fare around here. It really all depends really on how they are against the Mercedes. And of course, we haven't really got a true reflection at the moment, given currently we're in wet conditions and changeable conditions, I should say. Kirishima De Rosa is now onto the intermediate tyres. So I think there's actually a few others now who's on the inters. As we look at Laura Chung, who's out on track, but she's going back into the pits this lap. On the medium tyre, I would expect her to come out on the inters a little bit later on in the session. So at the moment, the leaderboard at the moment currently stands with Carr at the top, Galloway in second, Motrin third, Byrne fourth, Franco Gamba in fifth, with Gal in sixth, Willows seventh, Lopez in eighth, Kupok in ninth, and it is Roberto Gamba in 10th, with De Rosa 11th, Chatfield in 12th, Gomez 13th, Chung 14th, Wilson 15th, Fraser 16th, Roke 17th, Martinez 18th, Videri 19th, Sontag 20th, Griffiths 21st, and Kirby in 22nd and last. And whilst we are looking at Laura Chung, it's you have to say it's not been a very good start to the season beaten for Laura this season. I know that the car has obviously gone backwards in terms of pace, but compared to a teammate, she hasn't really had a very good start to the season.
Yeah, if the car has had a step back, then we have to say that so has Laura Chung as well. Like, her performances can almost be argued as the worst on the grid at the moment, but let's not go into that. But yeah, last season she was kind of known for having an amazing race and then having a really bad one right after, so now she needs to find the good ones more consistently. And I would like to get back about what we were talking about Red Bull earlier. Of course, with Red Bull and partly Mercedes, we need to note that the midfield is actually closer to them than they were probably ever before. And if they have a poor result or poor strategy or whatever, it can really show, as we saw in China.
And in a way, Bahrain as well, when Evan Byrne took his first podium in 8 years. So it can really change up, not just at the front, but maybe in the top three in general. We just don't know, of course. But yeah, with the topic of Laura Chung, as we were talking about earlier before we went back onto Red Bull, she hasn't scored a point yet this season. She finds herself down in 19th in the Drivers' Championship with 0 points. So if she wants to open a points account, she hopes that she's got to do it this week. Otherwise, this could be a very, 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 very tough season for her, if it weren't already tough with the fact that the Ferrari has dropped a bit in pace. But the fact that she's currently being beaten quite comfortably at the moment by her new teammate Roberto Gamba, who's come back after a season away in DTM, it's not really something that she had in mind, I don't think.
Yeah, well, Roberto Gamba, to be fair, isn't like he isn't bad. We know he has had some good seasons before, and of course winning DTM is always a good thing. But everybody probably expected Laura to be the clear best driver at Ferrari. But now, with this current Ferrari that we have seen, I think their struggle in high-speed circuits might be too much, and to get the points account running, they need Laura especially needs to capitalize on the tracks which suit the Ferrari more, and now it's time to get going, because otherwise the gap will just widen up.
Indeed. I should point out as well that Roberto didn't win the DTM title year. It was won by the guy who we're looking at on the screen briefly there. It was Daniel Fraser who won
Wait,
DTM.
he was close.
Yeah, he was close, but
Wait, did he win at any point?
I don't think he won a race in 2019. I think he was just consistent,
No,
which
no,
got
wait.
him close to the champion.
I need to actually open the wiki because am I thinking about the wrong driver?
Daniel Fraser won the title in 2019 for DTM, who is driving for Haas. So, speaking of Haas, we're currently looking at Dudu Kirby, who you could say was the culprit in the whole Roland Motrin disaster, really, which prevented Roland from getting his first ever win in the top class and getting the Silverstone-based team's first win since 2009. So, as I said, Roland needs to bounce back. But for Dudu Kirby, I guess he's had an okay season, it must be said, to start off with. I think both he and Daniel have been relatively similar in terms of pace. Maybe not so much in qualifying, but I think in terms of race pace, they've both been about similar.
Yeah, not much of a difference. I think, well, to be honest, Fraser had a poor one last time around, but I think I would argue that Fraser was better in the first 2 rounds, but China was definitely not that good. Dudu was better before the failure.
Yeah, indeed. As we now look at Daniel Fraser.
And yeah, about saying, as you can see, I don't always follow the DTM too closely, other than the sign-up period. I honestly, I think I just mixed up. I did not mix him up with Fraser. I think I mixed up Roberto Gamba and Gabriel Gomez.
Enough there.
Martinez a little lock-up.
A little mistake there for Zeta Martinez. And speaking of Philly series, I'm hoping I can find a solution to try and get Formula E and BTCC going because of the encoding problems I've got at the moment. Yeah, it's a bit of a pain in the rear, I must say, on my end, and a bit of a stressful one. But hopefully, I can find some kind of solution just to try and get the pre-season testing going, even if streaming don't want to work for me at the moment. But anyway, Dudu Kirby now then, making his way towards turns 2 and 3. As he's got one of the Ferraris, but I think that might be Laura Chung has already just come back out onto the track. I think she might be on a pair of intermediates like everybody else. Whether it will dry up, of course, we'll have to wait and see, judging from the weather. It's kind of 50-50 at the moment, whether it will, as Galloway's trying to attempt to get by on one of the Alpha Towers. That looks like David Kupok is getting by there, because it looked like the German flag on the helmet there, so I believe that was Kupok. Of course, this is Kupok's home Grand Prix, and given so far the season that Kupok's had, are we looking to continue that momentum? But you'd have to say for Kupok, it seems like the bad luck he had last season, knock on wood, seems to have halted for the moment.
Yeah, well, based on the first round, you could say that maybe Kupok just needed the second season to get going. Australia was amazing. Bahrain probably wasn't. I don't really remember what he did in Bahrain, so probably
He earned a 5-place grid penalty. That's what he earned.
Okay, so yeah, he was quite bad at Bahrain then.
But then in China, of course, he came so close to getting a podium.
China was also. I would argue that Australia was better than China, but two really good ones followed by one crash out. I think that's a decent start to the season, and he has generally been better than his teammate.
Chatfield, of course, who was, you'd have to argue, probably Rookie of the Season in 2019. But yeah, I think overall, though, I would say that both AlphaTauris have done a pretty good job this season. A very good start to the season, and currently lie 4th in the Constructors at this point in time. So a very strong start, but as you said, I think Chatfield needs to find something if he wants to beat his teammate this season, because so far David's had the edge on him, probably because of the fact that he's a little bit more experienced with the team. But we'll have to wait and see if Chatfield can try and get on terms with him a little bit later on in the season. It will be a question, but overall I think both of them have done a pretty good job so far.
Yeah, good performances all across the board, and of course it looks like the Alpha Tauri is also an improvement on the Toro Rosso of last season, so yeah.
Indeed, it seems that the car has definitely made a step up from last season, and obviously last time out, Kupok, as mentioned, did come very close to a podium, but was outpaced in the end by the two Mercedes and just couldn't find a way through on the fellow Honda-powered Red Bull. In fact, fellow the sister car, I should say. As we look at Jamie Griffiths now in the very, very nice Canon Williams tributed Williams. I don't know why I said Williams twice there, but there we are. Currently down in 21st at the moment. Obviously can't really do much at the moment because of the wet conditions. I think the rain, I don't know if there was any rain about, but it looks like the sky's starting to brighten up a little bit on top. So that's usually a sign that conditions would get better in a minute. So I think the sky is starting to brighten up a little bit more. So we might see the conditions start to get dry in a little bit. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it can be a little bit random at times with GP4 and the rain graphics. I think usually when it shows that it rains at a certain point, it usually is very accurate that if it says that it rains for half an hour, then it rains for half an hour, and it shows that it will rain from the start to the 30-minute mark, so I would expect that the track won't get enough time to dry completely up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's as we were looking at Martinez there, he did make a little bit of an error into the final two corners there, just a little bit of a wiggle. As we now look at Daniel Fraser now then, who's making his way towards the stadium section, and currently in 16th position at this point in time. Obviously can't really move much, as mentioned earlier, because of the conditions, but hopefully the conditions dry out a little bit later so that we get to see some better lap times in a little bit, although there is under 10 minutes to go, so could be a little bit nip and tight here.
16 is fine with the Haas, to be honest. It's the car you can argue is the, well, apart from the Manor, worst on the grid. And
well, you could.
And the Manor might even be better at the power tracks.
Well, this is considered a power track, is Hockenheim, of course, with the straight, as we saw in the real life 2019 season with Ferrari before they had their failures in qualifying. Yeah, it has been considered a power track in the past as Hockenheim, so I wonder if that will be a thing that we need to keep an eye on with the Manners. But obviously, Haas do find themselves last in the Constructors' Championship behind both Williams and Manor. Williams getting above Manor last time out in China thanks to getting a higher result. So that's that. As obviously for Haas, they'll be hoping they don't end up finishing at the bottom because, of course, the last time they did finish bottom was in their first season in 2015, when the car had a year-old engine in the back. So
When the car didn't exist.
pretty much, yeah. Of course, we had a vote really to determine what the 11th team would be, whether it be Cato and Haas, and it was quite a close vote from what I remember. But in the end, it was Haas who just scraped it in the end. Who got the nod. So that's why they ended up on the grid in 2015, and Caterham ended up pulling out at the end of 2014. So
at least Manor lasted longer.
Yeah, true. Because obviously this is their last season, of course, and they have been in it since 2010 really, when they were Virgin Racing. So some memories there. As Fraser's coming back into the pits this lap, as one of the Mercedes is trying to get by and one of the McLaren's behind. As they come through turns 2 and 3, wasn't able to get past the McLaren that time by, which is a bit surprising because the Mercedes is usually quite powerful on the straight compared to the Renault and could usually outbrake quite easy as well. So I'm seeing now a dry line emerging, as you can see, at the hairpin. So there is a dry line starting to emerge, so we might see some quicker lap times very soon. It all really depends on how quickly the track dries up, really. But we are starting to see a dry line now starting to emerge down at the hairpin.
To be completely honest about the Renault engines, in 2020 they weren't bad. Like in 2020, well, we know which engine was the bad one, but Renault was quite decent. Mercedes does have a little bit more, but yeah.
I mean, they did claim in real life that they had 1,000 brake horsepower, so...
Well, everybody claims that every year. Well, at least somebody claims it. I think probably in qualifying trim they probably have most of the engine manufacturers, but yeah, it's an interesting number they like to throw around.
Yeah, indeed. As I did see some more dry lines starting to emerge at certain other parts of the track, but there's still some wet parts at the moment. As Armar car obviously not able to improve at this point in time, but he'll be hoping that it dries up quickly enough for him to get to set a quicker time and get on the dries. But it looks like it's probably going to be a bit too late for him because there's only 6.5 minutes left in this session, and no matter how quickly they're trying to dry out the conditions, as there's some side-by-side action here going on between Martinez and Gomez.
I'm going to answer a comment. Why Jamie asked why he and Dudu are so slow. Basically, you didn't get a lap in before the rain.
Yeah, the rain came in quite early, to be honest with you, Jamie. So that's why you're quite far down. So don't think it's a true reflection on your pace. So as the dry lines are starting to emerge now a little bit quicker, but whether it be enough, we'll have to wait and see. As Garmer's currently holding up, Roberto Garmer that is currently holding up, I believe this is Lopez, because I think we've already seen Carr, and I think Carr's coming back into the pits. So I believe that's Lopez who's trying to get by on Roberto Garmer there. As we ride on board with the 2019 GP2 champion and 2017 BTCC champion, Dudu Kirby. As Kirby now makes his way through into the left-hander. Now making his way through the section of corners.
At least it didn't happen in quali. Yeah, we can call Jamie Griffiths the guy who was getting unlucky at qualifying sessions.
Yeah, he has been very unlucky as Jamie. His race pace, though, has been very good. He obviously just missed out on the points last time out in China, so he has been teasing a few points finishes here and there, but who knows whether he will get one this season.
Maybe when he gets a clean lap, he can beat Felix.
Who knows, really? But Felix has actually been pretty strong in qualifying in the teammate battle, it must be said, compared to Jamie, of course, as you mentioned there, Yuri. But he has been pretty decent in qualifying as Felix. So obviously the experience getting the better there compared to Jamie at the moment, as De Rosa, I think, is getting re-overtaken here by the Manor that's alongside him there, and he is. It's Martinez. So a bit interesting there.
Let's take a look, actually.
It seems like he got him back at this corner. We do see it a couple of times in DTM and GP2, I believe, as well. And it seems like Martinez has kind of learnt that trick there. So
Yeah, the top
can
class
try and
rarely tries to go there, but
yeah,
Martinez decided that he wants to try it.
absolutely. As now into the stadium section, then we go. Still now go through the banked left-hander, where of course Sebastian Vettel in real life has some bad memories in these specific conditions. So
You are going to bring out the Vietnam flashbacks for
oh yeah,
Vettel fans.
oh yeah. So anyways, Kirby now then makes his way out of the right-hander. It doesn't look like everybody's going to have. And I have not seen anyone yet try and attempt to go out on the dry tyres
The
yet.
pink
So,
car that is overtaking Gamba is on the dries.
yeah, I
Just take,
thought that as well when looking at the mirror, but I wasn't 100% sure. Let's
look.
have a look. Yes, that's Roland Motrin who's on the dry tyres, and he's currently in third. So we might see an improvement from him in a little bit. We'll have to wait and see. So we have got some drivers out there who are on the dry tyres. Going into the first corner he goes, currently in last position and probably going to stay there for the remainder of the session because there's no sign of it looks like there's no sign of him going out on the dries. That McLaren in front is also on the dries. I believe that's Joseph Willows looking at the colour of the helmet. So I believe Willows has now gone out onto the dry tyres. Anybody else going to join Motrin and Willows? There may be a few others that we aren't aware of yet, but we'll have to wait and see. The line continues to emerge as they make their way down towards the hairpin. And now to the hairpin we go then. Kirby currently down in last position at this point in time. For anybody who's only just joined and is somewhat confused as to why why Zandvoort's looking a little bit weird, it's not Zandvoort, this is Hockenheim. Again, for anybody who hasn't seen the news, of course, we're not racing at Zandvoort this week. This is due to issues with the track, with the top class, of course. Not so much GP2, but with the top class mainly, so that's why it's been relocated to Hockenheim for the German Grand Prix. GP2 can still return to Zandvoort in the future, but that's all really depending on whether it gets voted as a standalone race. We'll have to wait and see on that because, as I said, it's not really much of a problem for GP2, but because it was supposed to be the feeder series race was meant to happen at the same weekend as the top class, the same location, I should say. It made sense for GP2 to be at Hockenheim as well, although it does mean that it was a back-to-back German race for GP2, and people jokingly yesterday said the F2 German Championship, which is something of interest.
I think the host of that series would like that.
Yeah, I wonder why. Anyway, Daniel Fraser's also on the dry tyres, but his first lap has been compromised there. He should get another lap in because there are just over 2 minutes left in the session, so enough time for him to get back round and to try and do another lap, provided he doesn't try to do the same thing again into the first corner. Martinez, not going to be on the dry tyres. It looks like he's going to stay out and just do laps on the intermediate tyres. As we have just under 2 minutes left, you can just hear the team radio guy confirming that. Through into the last few turns, then we go.
Yeah,
This is
a good one. Yeah, Zandvoort did the job of replacing Hanoi completely by being cancelled.
Yeah, indeed. Because, of course, Hanoi doesn't exist for Grand Prix 4. And to be honest, I don't think it ever will, given the fact that I don't think Formula 1's going to ever race there, which is a bit of a waste of where they built that track and the garages. But
well, that track was horrible, so it's just good.
Yeah, it's got so far to the point that apparently the owners of the bit where they built on, they want their land back. So that's that, really. So Kirby, he's doing one more lap on the Inters, and this will be his last lap, of course, because we have just over 1 minute left of the session. And I'm not sure if any of the dry runners are improving at the moment. Fraser was still 6 seconds off, so there's still a little bit of wetness around, so I don't think we're going to see any improvements, to be honest with you, as George Roque comes across the line, and he's going back into the pits. No improvement for him, and he remains down in 17th position. Griffiths remains in 21st, and I think I saw the pit symbol for him as well. Franco Gama trying to get some mileage on the dry tyres, as Motrin didn't improve that time by. As we look at Gabriel Gomez, he's on the intermediate tyres. Through the banked left-hander he goes. Gomez has had a pretty good start to the season, must be said. Obviously, the Alphas, despite the fact that the Alpha has gone backwards in terms of pace, it seems that both Gomez and Vaderi are able to get some good performances out of them so far this season.
I think Gomez has single-handedly won the bottom cars battle.
Yeah, safe to say, because out of the four bottom cars, obviously Alfa Romeo, Haas, Williams and Manor, Alfa Romeo has been the only one that scored points. So That's that really. Is De Rosa didn't improve on that. Lopez will just get enough time in to just get one lap on these fresh sets of medium tyres, which he will do. Willows, will he get one more lap as he crosses the line? He will do. And is he the last one to cross the line? He
Yes.
is. Chris Chatfield didn't make it, so Willows is the last one to cross the line. The checkered flag now falls on this practice session here at Hockenheim. Wilson crosses the line. No improvement for her. None for Videri as expected. Let's see what lap times they are anyway, because we're not expecting improvement. 1:16 there for Daniel Fraser. Roke and Griffiths are coming back into the pits.
Yeah,
Look
it's
at
not
Frankie
dry
Garber.
enough.
Yeah, so I think we're just going to have to look at lap times. But Garber now then, into the final turn and onto the pit straight he will now go. And the lap time he's going to set is a 1 minute 14.5. Roland Motrin crosses the line at 1:15.3. As Gomez, we now look at, he's coming back into the pits this lap anyway, so it don't really matter. We now look at Nicolas Gal now then, who's also on the dry tyres. Obviously his teammate did a 1 minute 14.5, so let's see what Gal is like compared to him as he makes his way into the final few turns on the racetrack. Second to last corner, and then into the final turn you will go. This looks like it's going to actually be slower than Garber, in fact, but let's see. Gal crosses the line, and it is a 1 minute 16.0. Martinez now then, heading down the pit straight on the intermediate tyres, has got Sontag, who didn't get enough time, neither of them improve. Of course, De Rosa didn't improve. Lopez, round the final turn he goes. The second to last car to do a lap, I believe. We've got a crash here, and that's Videri. So just as the session comes to a close, as well as in Lopez cross the line, Videri has had a little bit of either a mechanical failure or he's had a crash. Let's have a look and see, shall we? And it might have something to do with Amelia Wilson. Let's see. Into there, and that was a bit clumsy from Wilson there, it must be said. Very, very clumsy indeed.
Yeah, you could bring that as a rookie error. I don't think the Alfa Romeo mechanics are happy about that.
Yep. Luckily, there are T cars in Grand Prix 4, and luckily it's the session
And
is
that's
come to
the
a close. It
session
doesn't
over.
really matter too much. But there you go. That is the session over. I'll mark our quickish with Jake Galloway in second, and Roland Motrin in third. Not really much to conclude there because of the wet conditions. But we're going to take a brief break for the moment, guys. We'll pause the stream and then come back with a fresh one for the qualifying. But until then, I've been JW97. He's been Yuri Marta, and we'll see you in just a little bit for the qualifying session ahead of the German Grand Prix. See you in a bit.